Welcome everybody. On this episode, we're going to be reviewing Strange Academy, issue number 1. Aloha everybody, Haz-Matt here, and let's talk about Strange Academy number 1 from Marvel. Now, in my hands, I have issue number 1 here with the variant cover from J. Scott Campbell. Now, this book has me absolutely jazzed beyond reason. I love Skottie Young, I love Humberto Ramos, and then you give me a variant cover of J. Scott Campbell, who's another one of my favorite artists. Yeah, I'm all about this. So, this was an easy sell. Maybe it'll be a little bit of a biased review, because I just go in loving these guys already, but hey, it's my show. I want to talk a little bit about just coming into this. Like I said, I was really excited for this. I've had the opportunity to meet some of the artists behind this, specifically Skottie Young and Humberto Ramos. And when I met Skottie Young is when he came out to Hawaii. Really nice guy and super funny and very engaging with everybody. So every time I read something from him, I kind of hear his voice and I just feel like, oh, this is a friend telling me a story. So again, I have a little bit of that preset bias for it, but to be honest, this is just flat out a great story. We'll get into that in just a second. Humberto Ramos, I first got the chance to meet in 2009 at San Diego Comic-Con. This was right before he went in and did all the Spider-Man stuff. I got a sketch from him, just like a quick con sketch he agreed to do for just like a really reasonable price, like $40 or something. And I had him do the a bust sketch of Nostromo from X Nation, because that's the first place I saw him. So I've been a fan since then. Not trying to be all hipster like before it was a thing. No. I really dig his work. Let's jump into this issue in specific. Strange Academy number 1. The writing on this from Skottie Young, I mean, really, this blends in wonderfully with the rest of the established MCU. And yet at the same time, it feels like it's its own pocket separated from everything. And honestly, good. There is a beautiful strength in the continuity overlapping in the Marvel Universe, but sometimes I've got to imagine that's a pretty heavy burden to try and work under when you're trying to create a new story. This one carves it out by giving us new characters, some familiar faces, in a new scenario. But it also goes back to kind of that tried and true of like, here's teenagers with abilities in a school. Yeah, sounds like a winning combination. We've got a lot of these characters, and the way they're written is really nicely done because they're not written so accurately as some kids are, where you read it and just on paper you're like, damn, kids are annoying. But they also have a little bit of that like forward thinking that you would want them to have to A, drive a story, and B, be likable. Now that makes me sound like I hate children. That's not the case. But there are a lot of kids out there where you kind of look at them, especially from someone who's my age now, where you're just like, why are you doing that? That's dumb. The way that this is set up, you're like, I have no idea if you're going to make good choices or bad choices, but I'm now invested in you. And I think that's actually a skill of the writer. Yes, they do feel like actual teenagers. They are impetuous. They have preconceived notions. They are willing to act way before thinking. That's what impetuous means, so I'm just double talking here. I want to say how much I love how this blends into the MCU and brings back certain things. Like, I've been wondering what's going on with Dr. Voodoo for a while now. I love the Doctor Strange corner of the MCU. So I keep saying MCU. This isn't the cinematic universe. And just the Marvel universe. So the fact that Dr. Voodoo's back and the fact that you play off all of these established characters, you see Loki come in and talk about, you'd think he would be there for the 2 Asgardian kids. Nope, but he's there for the Frost Giant. And I think that's awesome because that's what's going on over with Loki's story right now. I think that it's great that you have Dormammu's son, Doyle Dormammu. First of all, Doyle Dormammu, beautiful comic book name. I love the alliteration, all of it. Doyle? Yes, please. And beyond that, it also raises a very important question of who's out there boning Dormammu. But anyway, you've got Emily Bright, who is kind of the character that you attach to as the reader because she's like regular person, regular family, finds out she has magical powers, and then is just dealing with that the whole time. Now she's being shoved into this. We also have, let's see, a few other just outstanding type of characters. Let me go through this here. Sorry, I'm all looking off to the side because I'm not super professional in memorizing everything. Shaylee Moonpetal. This is the kind of the fairy type of character. I believe she's half human that ends up being roommates with Emily. She's just nothing but pure positive energy. So super fun there. Doyle Dormammu, again, talked about him. Just the fact that he is super, like, he reminds you of that kid in high school that showed up driving a really nice car, and you know that it's daddy's money that bought it, so you don't know why he has the attitude that he has. But he's also, like, just likable enough, that kind of arrogant where you're like, that's half confidence that I can respect and half just jackassery. Also, the fact that they draw him with a polo shirt and the flipped up collar, nicely done. Nicely done. That's about a perfect summation of the character. Eric and Alvi, these are the two twins from Asgard, and I love the fact that very teenage-esque, they have these things where it's like, we're so awesome, we're trying to do these things to fit in and immediately position ourselves as the cool kids, and they also have these wild preconceived notions, like as soon as they see Gooselog from the Frost Giant, she's mute for all I know, but the Frost Giant, they're immediately like, let's get her! And then as soon as Loki shows up and is being like, hey, don't be dicks. And if Loki tells you to not be a dick, that's pretty powerful. They immediately turn into like, okay, well then, let's get selfies! And I think that's funny as hell. Zoe Laveau, or Zoe Laveau? Zoe, I'm going to go with Zoe. Definitely has some tie to the whole Nolan's like voodoo style of magic, so I'm going to see if there's a connection. I know that she has a background. Her character is, related to somebody, but I'm not super familiar with it. I'm sorry, but this makes me want to go back and learn more, so I think that's really well done. You've got Calvin Morse. This is a kid that you don't really know anything about him, except he seems super stoked to be there, and he's an orphan of some kind, so this all is a huge step up. You've got Desi. Desi is a demon whose name is Despair, but she prefers Desi, and she can basically see through everyone's BS, and I think that is a remarkable talent and a great story point and a horrible burden when surrounded by teenagers, especially mystical ones. Toth. This is a guy that's, what is he, half crystal and half man thing type of a thing? He seems pretty awesome as well. I'm looking forward to it. There's German. Am I saying that right? And we don't know anything about him. So, going into the artwork for this, I really love, again, Humberto Ramos' style for all of this. All of the adults look like adults. All of the teenagers look like teenagers. He draws it so that children look like children, and weird other dimensionally mystical demons and other things look like weird otherly dimensional mystical demon things, or whatever. So I think that the style for this is absolutely perfect. I think the writing and the artistry just blend wonderfully. I also want to give shout outs to the colorist here, Edgar Delgado. I've seen a lot of his stuff, mostly in conjunction with Humberto Ramos, and I think it's super cool. I like what he does. Now, the thing that I was not expecting, and I was pleasantly surprised by, was the fact that when you tell me, hey, we're going to be doing a story about the mystical end of the Marvel Universe, I'm legitimately thinking that the colors for that are going to be those super bright, glossy, neon-style colors that you get from a lot of those. And I hate to toss everything back on like 90s books and that kind of thing, but it is there quite a bit. And you do see it pop in other Marvel mystical type stuff. But that's not the case here. Yes, you do get like bright pinks and off-worldly ice blues, that kind of a thing. But they have all this like muted kind of almost watercolor overlay to them. I'm not good at describing colors. I apologize, Edgar Delgado, but I think you did a phenomenal work in selecting the palette and the tone. Also, I want to do a shout out to the letterer. VC's Clayton Cowles is how it says in the credits here. Now, what he did is created a lettering system for the different characters. Humans look pretty standard. Then you have the demons, or you have, like Doyle Dormammu has a style that's remarkably different from Desi, which is then different from the Asgardians and all of that. And I think that it's a wonderful visual cue when you have a huge group of teenagers standing around all talking at the same time. This is a good way to show the difference between the two. To go into a little bit of the plot of Strange Academy #1, it really is an introductory issue. So it's a lot of time spent just making sure you know who the players are, all of the different students. Like I said, Emily is kind of the through point for the reader as a human discovering, well, she's always kind of known that she's had access to magic, but who's really discovering the extent of her power. That is what calls her to be part of the academy. Zelma Stanton shows up and is kind of the Hagrid to her Harry Potter to say, hey, you're a wizard, let's go. They get whisked off to Nolans. That's where the academy is, because they figure that's a community that's got enough of a magical mindset. It's a cross line, ley lines, that kind of a thing. All cool. I'm totally down with all of this. You start meeting all of the students at this point, and you get a feel for how they're going to be set up. Roommates are handed out, so you have a few people that seem like perfect matches and a few people that seem like gross mismatches. So yeah, you're going to have the usual school hijinks show up, and you only get a very short amount of time with most of these characters, and I think it's a real credit to the art and the overall storytelling to make you pretty immediately care. The fact that Desi starts off and she sounds just like your usual kind of emo shoegazing teen of like, because life, because death, we're here, that kind of a thing, and it becomes, oh, she just knows too much. And she's probably actively trying to not spill secrets that she knows but everybody else doesn't, and she doesn't know where that line is. You get a little bit of a hint of that. The fact that Gooselog seems really excited to be there, but at the same time is mute and isn't saying anything. Like, it's just the art there, just like, I'm invested in her as a character. She seems like a sweetheart. I don't know. She might kill everybody in just a rampage one day. But for right now, she seems really cool. The two arrogant Asgardian... Well, one seems pretty arrogant. One seems kind of a little bit more cool, but still trying to show that part of being like distant, thoughtful, smart, cool. How is this going to play out? Are these characters going to really start off as these like... This is exactly what you think they are, and this is what they're going to develop into? I think that's probably the way to go. That's how you progress any character. So, but I like this as a starting point. It's familiar, but it's also engaging. There's immediately something there that makes you want to know more. The fact that Emily's roommate, Moonpetal, Shaylee, is so happy. Is that just a natural thing, or is she hiding something? I'm not sure, and I'm looking forward to finding out. I like that we also... I just keep saying I like, and it's true. I do. I like all of this stuff. We have not met everyone yet, but the fact that you've got something as rich in a background as like Calvin just being like, oh, I'm an orphan or whatever, but he's just like, I'm so stoked to be here. Like, there's something to that as well. I'm all about it. I'm looking forward to it. I keep saying that, and I'm going to keep saying that. When they finally start meeting the staff, that is really where things start picking up. Both in the terms of, oh, this is where the tie-ins occur, and in terms of literal action. Because just as Dr. Voodoo shows up and says, hey, I'm Dr. Voodoo, and this is your staff, you've got Zelma, of course, you've got the Ancient One, which is surprising. You've got the Mindful One, no longer the Mindless One. I forget when that happened, but that's good. Then you've got all of these instructors that are going to be popping in and out. Hellstrom, Nico Minoru, Scarlet Witch, Magic, and Shaman. That seems pretty cool. And of course, Doyle Dormammu pops up and he's like, well, what about Doctor Strange? You gotta wonder if he's asking that because he knows that Doctor Strange is the king, or not the king, but like the Sorcerer Supreme, or is it like, is he looking for Strange on behalf of his dad? How much of his dad's influence is gonna be in this? I like it. I have no idea. But Strange does show up and, of course, brings with him another gigantic thing and another major disaster that Strange has gotten himself into. And the kids jump in and try to help. Like, just like blast this thing out of existence. It is a pretty good thing for orientation camp. Like, when I first started in college, our first goal was to make friends with the kid who had a car. I did. Fortunately, that guy was cool. But, hey, Andrew. But beyond that, it was like, we didn't get into a big fight. I'm pretty glad. I would have gotten my butt kicked. But, you know, in this sense, like, I get that this is how you lock them in. And it almost makes me wonder, did Strange just put them in danger willingly? I think so, because A, Strange is that type of guy, and B, at the end of it, he very clearly states in his little quick speech to make sure that everyone's psyched up and knows what they're going for, the last lines of the issue are just, try not to die. That's pretty badass. So, overall, I had an absolute blast with this book. I love it. I highly recommend it. However it is that you go about do it, I know that it's tempting to get digital stuff right now with everybody being under quarantine. I'm filming this in late March of 2020, but if you can, take a look at your local comic book store still. So many of them are doing curbside pickups or deliveries that if you can, make sure to help them out and throw them some love. I know I got this from my local comic book store. They have come through in a big bad way, and I love this book. So make sure you grab it and enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. All right, to the next of many, I'm Haz-Matt. Aloha.